Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Game Society, I call this the Tale of Prison of Khinn. Alright everyone, this is the second part of the Prison of Khinn. So the hero's goal is to be searching throughout all these objective tokens throughout the map. They're looking for the missive. Once they get the missive, they have to exit. And the Overlord's job is to raise the alarm 6 times. So they do this by choosing tests that the heroes have to test and make noise as well. So they're just trying to stall each turn. The Overlord also gets a hero token. They use these hero tokens to raise the alarm. Once they do it 6 times, the heroes are busted, then the Overlord wins. All right. First up, the Overlord has cave spiders. They get to do a melee attack with blue, yellow dice, and then they get to web, poison, and do some extra damage. Next up, they get some zombies. Zombies have shambling, so they can only move once. The master one can grab and hold them in place. Disease, which has the heroes test to lose fatigue, and then they can also do extra damage. They do a melee attack of blue, yellow, and red. Moving along, we have the Shadow Dragon. It does a melee attack with blue, red. The shadow means if they're adjacent and then they don't spend a surge, they end up missing. They have a fire breath like 4 square hit a box, and then ends up with surges for a bunch of extra damage. The Overlord also has the Ettins. They do a melee attack, which does have reach with 1 blue and 2 red dice. They can end up throwing heroes 3 spaces away, and they can also do some extra damage with surges. Last up is the Goblin Archers. They do a ranged attack with blue, yellow, and yellow. They have scampers so they can move past the heroes, and then they can surge for extra range and extra damage. The first lieutenant is Balthier right here. He has fly, so he can fly over like objectives and stuff like that. He has reach, so he has a melee attack 2 spaces away, blue, red dice. Cry Havoc is a move, and then anyone he moves over, he can attack, and then he can also search the poison, or equipping him with the Shield of Zorak's Favor, so it's a chance to retaliate some damage back based on the number of defense dice rolled. And then the other lieutenant that the Overlord has is Splig. He has Not Me, so he can make his little minions near him take damage. He can promote them from regular minions to masters. He can search for knockback. He does do a melee attack of blue, red, and yellow, and he's being equipped with Scorpion's Kiss, which is kind of this line of sight, immobilization, and poison ability. First up is Tatiana. She has the skills Nimble, Danger Sense, First Strike, and Accurate, and then for gear, she has Heavy Cloak and Elm Greatbow. Next up is Grisban. For skills, he has Brute, Rage, Charge, and Weapon Mastery. For items, he has Lucky Charm, Chainmail, and Iron Battle Axe. Moving along, we have Shalara. She has Exploding Rune, Iron Will, and Runic Knowledge for her skills. And then for gear, she has Scorpion Helm, Sunburst, Mana Weave, and Leather Armor. And she has the familiar Bright Blaze. Last up, we have a Sharon. She has Drain Spirit, Cloud of Mist, Healing Rain, and Stone Skin for skills. And then for equipment, she has Leather Armor, Iron Shield, and Iron Spear, and she happens to still have a Healing Potion from Encounter 1. The Overlord's going to use Dark Champion's Plot card. They have to spend 3 threat tokens right there, which will be distributed among the heroes as fortune tokens. We have to exhaust this. While it's exhausted, the Master Monsters get 2 health and 1 additional brown die for defense, and they can also get another option to surge for 2 damage. So this is really going to beef those up, so let's go ahead and redistribute those. All right. Tatiana gets 1, Grisban gets 1, and then Sharon gets 1. Alright, the heroes go first, but the Overlord got to choose 2 attribute tests for this dungeon, this prison right here. The Overlord chooses Knowledge and Willpower, so anytime the heroes do anything but a sneak action, they have to roll for that test. If they fail, the Overlord gets a hero token here, and then every time they get 5 hero tokens, they get to raise the alarm, which causes more monsters to come onto the prison, as well as that's the victory condition for the Overlord. All right, so Tatiana's going to go first. Not Tatiana, Sharon's going to go first. She's going to do a move action, but then she has to roll for the test. She's going to test for willpower. She has to get 3 or less. She fails, so she makes noise. So the Overlord gets another hero token right there, and she gets to move. All right, she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 next to the door. And then her second action will be to open the door. She has to make a noise test again. She has to get 3 or less, so let's see. She is good, no noise. All right, right here, the door gets open, and that is the end of her turn. Let's go ahead and straighten that out. Next up is Shalara, but before she goes, she's going to move Bright Blaze 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. She's then going to do a sneak action, which allows her to not roll for the noise test, and she only gets 2 movement, but she would also get to recover fatigue. She hasn't spent 1 yet, so she doesn't recover anything, but when she moves right there, the Overlord's going to use a tripwire on her, so she has to test awareness. If she fails, she has to end that move action. She has to get a 1 or less for awareness. She's good, so she gets to continue her movement. All right, she's going to go right here, and then she's going to use Exploding Rune skill, which costs 1 fatigue to go and do a range attack with Sunburst 1, 2, 3, which will also hit this zombie there. She only needs 2 range because of her Scorpion Helm. All right, let's put the fatigue right there for the Exploding Rune. She gets a blue die and a yellow die. The zombie, she'll target the first one that she's targeting, gets a brown die. So let's see what she gets. She got the range, which she needed, I believe it was like 2. She does a damage and a surge right there. She's trying to do 5 damage. So far she's going to surge for 2 more damage. So she's doing 3. She's then going to use Mana Weave to get another surge, to use Runic Knowledge to suffer 1 fatigue to do 2 more damage. So that's 5 damage. Let's go ahead and suffer the fatigue right there. The zombie is next to Bright Blaze, so the whole attack does have Pierce 1, so this takes out the zombie. All right, let's go ahead and remove that zombie, and then we have to roll this zombie's defense. We're still doing 5 damage with Pierce 1. All right, that's also enough to take out that zombie, because with the Pierce 1, it's 5 damage. All right, let's remove that zombie, and now Shalara has to roll a noise test. She has to get 3 or less for her willpower. She is good, no noise. All right, Tatiana is going to go next. She's going to do a movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right up there. And then she has to do a noise test. She's going to roll knowledge. She has to get 2 or less. She makes noise. So let's go ahead and add a noise counter right there. So that is 4. Noise doesn't happen until 5. And let's continue with her next action. Next up, Tatiana is going to use her Elm Greatbow to attack this zombie right there. She needs 1, 2, 3 range, 2 because of her ability. She's trying to do 5 damage. She gets a yellow die and a blue die against a brown. She ends up getting 3 damage right there. She does not need to re-roll this yellow die. The zombie got 1 defense. She can use her surge for 2 more damage, so 5 against 1. It only takes 4 damage. Let's go ahead and place the 4 damage right there, and then she has to make a noise test. She's going to test knowledge. She has to get 2 or less. She fails, so we add a noise counter right there. That's the end of her turn. Last up is Grisban. He's going to take a move action. He's going to go 1, 2, 3 and make a noise test. He's going to test willpower. He has to get 3 or less. He passes. During the last part of the movement, he's going to trade with a Sheeran to get the health potion, and then his second action is to flip this over and to recover all of his health. So he recovers all of this health right here, and then he has to make a noise test for that action. He's going to test willpower. He has to get 3 or less. He is good. That's the end of his turn. At the beginning of the Overlord turn, we add a alarm token, and then 5 of these get discarded to trigger the first of 6 alarms. Let's go ahead and discard these. I'll place the open group soon, but then we also draw a card. So they got Word of Pain, which is going to be really good. We are going to choose to place the Goblin Archers right here on the exits. There you go. All right. All right, the Overlord's going to activate the Goblins first. This one gets 2 movements. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over there to protect this room. This one's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one more, 1, 2. That seems good. This one's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. The master one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there is good. And then this last one's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then another 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, 5 right there. Right, they're going to want to stand back and shoot at the heroes as they go through that door. Next up are the zombies. The master zombie is going to use hold on a Sheeran. She has to test might or else she gets immobilized. She has to get a 2 or less. So let's see if she's good. She unfortunately gets held. So let's go ahead and give her immobilize right there. She cannot move next turn. Next up, the master zombie is going to attack a Sheeran. It gets to roll a blue die, a yellow die, and a red die. She gets a gray die and a brown die, as well as Iron Shield, and she's going to use Stone Skin for 1 of fatigue to get another gray die. All right, let's go ahead and exhaust this, add the fatigue, and let's go roll. A lot of dice are going to be rolling. Let's see what happens. That ends up being a miss. Let's see if the Overlord has anything to do about that. They don't have anything for reroll, so that attack is a miss, but they're going to use Frenzy to make another attack. And then this time, Asheron does not get her extra gray defensive die. It was only for the one attack. So let's see what ends up rolling. It goes through the castle. The struggle. All right. That ends up being another miss. It's tough luck. All right, this zombie's going to go next, but then Tatiana is going to spend 2 fatigue to use her first strike ability to be able to attack this zombie before it actually does its activation. All right, let's add the 2 fatigue and then exhaust the first strike. She gets attacked with the Elm Great Bow. All right, she needs 2 range. She's just trying to do 1 damage. She gets a yellow and a blue against a brown. She does get it. All right, so it's definitely going to be, she has the range. She's going to do a surge for extra 2 damage. So it's 4 damage going through, and the unspent surge will remove a fatigue. So that takes out the zombie. All right, so let's remove that from the board. And she also gets to remove a fatigue. Last up is this regular zombie. It's going to move 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to attack Tatiana here with a yellow die and a blue die. She gets a gray die and has the heavy cloak. All right, let's see what everyone rolls. All right, let's pull this out for the regular zombie up top. It got 1 damage and 2 surges. She will use the cloak, so there's 1 last surge, so that's basically gone. And we will use the surge for an extra 2 damage, so that is 3 damage going through. All right, let's place the 3 right there. That's the end of the zombie's turn. At the end of the Overlord's turn, we're going to reinforce 1 zombie right over there. At the beginning of the hero's turn, Grisman's going to do a charge for 2 stamina, 1, 2, 3, or fatigue, and attack this master zombie right there. Let's go ahead and place the 2 fatigue right there. All right, he gets a blue die and a red die, and he has Pierce 1. He can also add a surge with weapon mastery. The master zombie gets 2 brown dice. The game doesn't come with 2 brown dice, so we'll have to re-roll it and add them together. So that one is a miss. Let's go ahead and use the fortune token to re-roll. All right, so we're going to spend that. All right, we're also going to add there was no defense on this one, so we're going to roll it again for the master zombie's 2 brown dice. All right, the attack ends up becoming a miss. Grisman has to roll for noise. He's going to roll for willpower, so he has to get a 3 or less. He fails, but he's going to use his lucky charm to roll this again. So let's go and let's see what he gets for the second go. All right, he passes, so no noise is made, and then he's on to his second action. His second action is to attack this master zombie again, so let's go ahead and roll the dice. A red and a blue against 2 brown dice. All right, so we'll move this, and then we got 2 for the brown. Let's go ahead and roll this again. All right, so that's 3. Let's see if we can find a dice with 3 just to represent it. All right, and then Grisman's going to use his weapon mastery to get another surge with a melee weapon. So he's going to add 2 damage and another Pierce 1. So he's doing 5 damage with Pierce 2. So he ends up doing 4 damage. All right, we're going to place the 4 damage right here. This zombie has 11 health because of Dark Champion plot card. And then Grisman is out of actions. Well, he has to actually roll for noise real quick for the second attack. He's going to roll on willpower, so he has to get 3 or less. He is okay. He does not make noise. And then he is going to use his heroic feat right here. So let's move this to flip it over to get another attack right there. And this does not make noise because it's not one of your 2 actions. So this will be good. He's going to attack the red master zombie again. All right, this time there's no more weapon mastery. So blue and a red on 2 brown. Let's see what he ends up getting. All right, he's doing 5 damage. The zombie has 1 plus, let's see if there's anything else. No, it has to go in the castle. 1 plus 2, so it's 3 defense. Let's go ahead and use this to represent the 3 defense, just to show everyone right there. So 5 damage, Pierce 1, minus the 2, so 3 damage goes through. All right, let's exchange those 2, plus the 3, so 5. So it's received 7 damage, and it has 11 health. All right, that is the end of Grisman's turn. All right, next up is Shalara, but before she goes, she's going to move Bright Blaze right over here, 1, 2. So there's going to be Pierce 1 against those zombies. She then is going to spend 1 fatigue to move up, so she doesn't have to do a noise test. Let's go ahead and place that right there. And then she is going to do her first action as a sneak, which allows her to move 2 and then remove a fatigue. She's going to go 1, 2 right here, and then she's just going to use her Sunburst rune right here with the Pierce 1 from Bright Blaze. She gets a yellow die and a blue die against a brown die. All right, she's trying to do 5 damage total. Let's see what she gets. This is not too bad. 2 damage and a surge. as well as the zombie got no defense. There is Pierce 1, but I guess that doesn't matter. So the first surge is going to be adding 2 damage, so that's 4 damage. She needs to get to 5. Mana Weave to get another surge, to use Runic Power, to suffer a fatigue to add 2 more damage, so that's going to be 6 damage, which is enough to take out the zombie. Let's remove the zombie right there, and let's add a fatigue right there, and then she has to make a noise test. She's rolling knowledge, she has to get 4 or less. She makes noise, so we're going to go ahead and add a noise counter to the noise track right there, and that is the end of her turn. Sharon's going to go next, but she has immobilized, so she's going to spend 2 on Healing Rain, roll a red die, and heal everyone within range 3. So let's see what she gets. The higher the better. She's going to heal everyone for 2. So yeah, because everyone is within range 3 of her, well, not the zombie, let's go ahead and remove 2 health from each of them. All right, 2 from Tatiana gets healed. The 5 turns into a 3 for Shalara, and then the 5 turns into a 3 for Sharon. So that's her first action. She has to roll for noise. She's going to test willpower. She has to get a 3 or less. She passes and makes no noise. Her next action is to use the Iron Spear to attack this Master Zombie. She gets a yellow die and a blue die against his 2 brown dice, and then she has Bright Blaze for Pierce 1. All right, we have to roll 2 dice for the zombie, so they got 0. Let's go ahead and move these out. It's 3 damage and a surge, which is pretty good, and Pierce 1. Let's see, the second roll for the zombie has to go into the castle. No defense, so she's going to do 4 damage right there. That is exactly enough to take out this zombie for 11. She has to make a noise test. She's going to test willpower, so she has to get 3 or less. She makes noise, so we are going to go over here and add a noise counter. The alarm triggers at every 5. All right, Tatiana is going to go last. She's going to do a movement action. 1, 2, 3, interrupt it to search. So there's going to be a couple things that happen. So the first thing, let's see, the Overlord's going to use poison darts right here. So play this card when a hero searches. They have to test. The Overlord's going to have Tatiana test the might. And then if Tatiana passes, the Overlord gets a card. If she fails, she's going to take a damage of fatigue and poison. So let's go ahead and roll that real quick. All right, so for might, she has to get 2 or less. She fails, so she takes a damage of fatigue as well as poisoned right there. Also, let's see what Tatiana gets. She ends up getting nothing, which is pretty painful for all of that. So she did 3. She has to test for noise for searching. She's going to test knowledge. She has to get 2 or less. She fails, sorry for that. And then she ends up making a noise counter right there. She's going to continue her movement 4, 5 right there. And then she has to make a noise check for that second movement. All right, she's going to test willpower. She has to get 2 or less. It has to go in the castle. All right, she fails again. So a noise counter happens. That is pretty rough. And that is the end of her turn. All right, at the beginning of the Overlord turn, we add a hero token right here for the alarm counter, and then we discard 5 of these to raise the second alarm right there. But before we do that, we are going to draw an Overlord card. They end up getting critical blow, so this is really good for the Overlord. Let's go ahead and place the Lieutenant. So for the second alarm, we are going to place Belthier right there. First up is the zombie. It's going to move 1, 2, 3 right here and attack a Sharon with a yellow die and a blue die. She gets a gray die and a brown die and has a shield. All right, let's see what everyone gets. This has to go in the castle right there. So we're doing 2 damage and a surge against 2 defense right there. She's going to use the shield for 3 defense. And then the regular zombie has to use the surge for 2 more damage. They cannot do disease because they have to at least do 1 damage to do that. So 4 against the 3, so 1 damage goes through. Place the damage right there, and that's the end of the zombie's turn. Next up are the goblin archers. They're going to spread out a little bit. This one's going to move there. This one's going to move right here. And this one's going to move right over there. And then this one's going to move 1, 2, 3, interrupt its movement to open this door. And then it's going to go 4 right there, and then the master goblin archer is going to stay put right there. Belthier is going to chase down the heroes. He gets to move twice. He's going to do 2 movements. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. That's the end of Belthier's turn. At the end of the Overlord's turn, they get to spawn 1 zombie right here at either the entrance or the exit. They're going to decide to do it at the entrance. Alright, Tatiana's going to go first. She's going to do 2 sneak actions, so she doesn't have to test for noise. So she gets 2 movements for each of those and gets to remove 2 fatigue. So she's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and remove her fatigue. Alright, there goes to 2 fatigue. I just noticed that she's poisoned, so she has to roll a might test. She should have already done this. She has to get a 2 or less. She fails, so she takes 1 damage from poison. That's the end of Tatiana's turn. Next up is a Sharon. Her first action is going to be to sneak, so she's going to move 1, 2 right there and remove a fatigue. Let's go ahead and remove that. And then her next action is to do a full movement, so she will have to test for noise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there next to the search token. She's going to test willpower. She has to get a 3 or less. She ends up passing, so no noise was made. Alright, next up is Grisban. He's also going to do 2 sneak actions, so that's 4 movement and removal of 2 fatigue. 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. Let's remove his fatigue. Right, and then we take off those 2 right there. That's the end of Grisben's turn. Last up is Shalara. She's going to Bright Blaze move first. 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. And then she's going to use her movement of 3. 1, 2, 3. She has to make a noise test. She's rolling for knowledge. She has to get a 4 or less. She makes no noise and moves on to her second action. Her second action is to move 3 again. 1, 2, 3, and test for noise once more. Alright, she has to get 4 or less. She is good and makes no noise. She's going to spend 2 fatigue to move 2 more movement points. Alright, she's going to go 1, 2 right over there. That's the end of the hero's turn. Alright, at the beginning of the Overlord turn, they start adding noise right there. And then they also get to draw an Overlord card, which ends up being Tripwire. That's going to be really good to slow down the heroes. Alright, first up is Belthier. He's just going to move 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move 4 again, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's on the hero's tail. The zombie's going to go next, 1, 2, 3. Can't move again because it's shambling. This one's going to go 1, 2, 3. Also can't go again. So that's the end of Belthier and the zombies. Alright, at the end of the Overlord turn, a zombie's going to spawn right over here at the entrance, and then they're also going to play Word of Pain. So they have to play this at the end of the turn. Each hero has to test might. Each one who fails suffers 1 damage. So let's go ahead and go through all of those. Alright, Tatiana has to get 2 or less. She fails, so she takes a damage right there. Grisban is next. He has to get 5 or less. He is okay. He passes. Shalara needs to get 3 or less. She passes as well. And Ashira needs to get 2 or less. She fails and takes a damage. Let's change that up for a 5. Right, that's the end of Word of Pain. Alright, Grisban's going to take the first turn. He's going to use Rage, which costs 1 fatigue, to do an attack on Belthier for 1 extra damage. Let's go ahead and place that right there. He gets to roll a red die and a blue die against Belthier's 2 gray dice and a brown dice. Alright, his axe, Iron Battle Axe, also gets Pierce 1. Alright, let's add up everything. Let's lay this all out. There's 5 damage in a surge, and Belthier has 3 defense right here. He's also going to have his shield. So let's go ahead and use let's add another surge with Weapon Mastery. Right there. So we are doing 2 surges, so plus 2 damage plus Pierce. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage, and then Pierce 2. So those are gone. So 8 damage. Minus the 1. Belthier takes 7 damage. Let's go ahead and place that. Then he gets to roll for his shield. Alright, there's the 7 damage right there. And then he has to roll for a might test. Alright, his might is 4, so he has to get 4 or less. He ends up succeeding. Therefore, the hero is Grisban's going to suffer 3 damage because he rolled 3 shields. Alright, let's go ahead and place the 3 right there. Oops, that's not 3. That was way more than 3. 1, 2, 3 right there. And then Grisban has to make a noise test. He's going to use willpower, so he has to get 3 or less. He ends up passing, so he makes no noise. And then for his second action, he's going to do an attack again. He's going to spend a fatigue for rage as well. He doesn't have weapon mastery anymore, so let's go ahead and see what he rolls. Let's see all of this. This is not going to be good for him. He's only doing 3 damage with no surges against 3, 4, 5, 6. Even with the pierce, no damage goes through. And then Belthier is going to use the shield as Zorik's favor to see if he ends up doing some damage back. Alright, Belthier has to get a 4 or less. He does not, so the shield does not go off. Alright, and then now Grisban has to make another noise check. Grisban's going to test willpower. He has to get a 3 or less. He ends up not making any noise. That's the end of Grisban's turn. All right, Sharon's going to go next. She's going to search right here. Let's see what she gets. She ends up getting a Curse Dow. You can flip this over to get rid of one condition, so that's good. She now has to test for noise. She's going to test for willpower, so she has to get 3 or less. She's good and does not make any noise and gets to do her second action. For her second action, she's going to spend 1 fatigue right there to have Cloud of Mist. Anyone within 3, if they're attacked, they have to spend a surge or else the attack becomes a mist. A miss, not a mist. She has to test for noise again. She has to get a 3 or less for willpower. She does not make noise. That's the end of her turn. All right, next up is Shalara. She's going to use 1 fatigue right here to move right next to the door. So let's go ahead and move her and then place the fatigue. All right, I'm going to place that right there. Her first action is to open this door, but then she does have to test for noise. So let's go ahead and do that. She's going to test knowledge. She has to get 4 or less. She is good and doesn't make noise. For her second action, she's going to use her heroic feat to attack this Master Goblin. So she gets to bring Bright Blaze next to an adjacent space. She's going to have it go right there so the attack will get Pierce. All right, let's go ahead and flip her board first. All right, let's flip this over to show that she's doing her heroic feat. Let's move all of her fatigue and damage and her fortune token right there. All right, she does need 3 range. She gets a yellow die and a blue die, and then the goblin gets a gray die and a brown die. So let's see what happens. All right, she doesn't get the range, so this is pretty rough. Let's go ahead and think about this real quick. She does have a token for reroll, but then there's a bunch of defense, so she has to think if it's worth it. I did not roll the blue die, so I'm going to go ahead and roll everything once again. That was the wrong dice. All right, she does get the range right there. Sorry about that. I was curious why I was so little. All right, the goblins do get 2 defense. Let's move that out of the way. We are going to use the first surge for +2 damage, and then we are going to use this for another surge to suffer fatigue and do 2 damage again. But before we do that, we have to use the fortune token to remove a fatigue. All right, so the token's going to be used. We remove the fatigue, but then we use runic knowledge to do an extra 2 damage. So let's go ahead and add it all up. All right, so it's going to be 2, 4, 6 plus Pierce 1. So then we end up having 5 damage go through to the goblin. He has 8 life, so he's still alive. Let's go ahead and place the 5 damage right there and make a noise test for Shalara. She's going to roll knowledge, so she has to get 4 or less. She's good and makes no noise. That's the end of Shalara's turn. All right, at the beginning of Tatiana's turn, she has to test for poison, which is a might test. She has to get 2 or less. She ends up failing, so she takes a damage. So let's exchange the 4 all the way over to a 5. And then she gets to take her turn. All right, first up, she's going to use a fatigue to get a free movement. All right, she's going to go right here with that movement, and then she's going to sneak so she doesn't make noise. She gets to move to and then remove the fatigue she just got. So go ahead and remove that right there. She's then going to attack on the Master Goblin Archer. She needs 1, 2, 3, 4 range, well, -1 because of her ability. So 3 range. She gets to roll with her Elm Great Bow, a yellow die and a blue die with Bright Blaze Pierce against the Goblin's gray die and brown die. All right, let's see what she rolls. She wants to do 3 damage, so she gets the range. So she's ended up doing 4 damage against 2. That's only going to be 2 damage, so she's going to use Accurate to re-roll this. It's kind of a risk, but she wants to get a surge as well. All right, she got 1 damage and a surge. With the surge, she's going to add 2 damage, so that's 5 damage against the 4, which will be enough to take out the Goblin Archer. The Overlord does have a tool in their kit to think about. Let me think about it real quick. The Overlord thought about it. They're going to use Armor of Darkness to add 2 more defensive dice. So this threat token is going to turn into a fortune token. So we'll decide who that goes to right now. We're going to give the token to Grisbin right here. Tatiana is now allowed to use her heroic feat right here, which is going to flip over and ignore the die that has the most defensive dice right here. So that's going to flip over. We're going to add on her damage, her fortune token, and we're going to go ahead and do all of the math. So with the heroic feat, this die is ignored right there. So we are doing still 5 damage with the Pierce 1 on the 2 defensive right here. So 4 damage goes through, which takes out the Master Goblin Archer. We're going to go ahead and remove him right there. Then Tatiana has to make a noise check. She's going to test willpower. She needs to get a 2 or less. She ends up failing that, so we add a noise counter to the clock right there. That's the end of Tatiana's turn. At the beginning of the Overlord turn, we add a noise counter right there, and then they also get to draw a card, which ends up being a dash right there, which is pretty good. All right, Balthair's going to go first. He's just going to use a movement action to go 1, 2, and think about that right there. I think he should be good there. All right. He's then going to use his Cry Havoc ability, which allows him to move, and anyone he passes through, he gets to attack. But remember, he has to spend a surge for the Cloud of Mist from a Sheeran. So let's go with attack 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to attack a Sheeran and Tatiana. So let's go ahead and grab all of the dice. A Sheeran right here is going to use a Fatigue to give Stone Skin to give Tatiana an extra grade defensive dice. So let's go ahead and spend the Fatigue. So we're going to put that right there. This is going to go right there. All right, and then we are going to roll 2 red dice and a blue die, and we will do Tatiana first. So 2 gray dice. All right, let's see what ends up rolling. All right, there is only 1 surge here, which is kind of important because Balthair needs the surge to actually do an attack because of Cloud of Mist right there. And then because Tatiana is getting hit, she can exhaust her heavy cloak to cancel 1 surge on an attack that targets you. So all of Balthair's attacks on both of them end up missing. All right, the Goblin Archers are going to go next. This one's going to move 1, 2, 3, and interrupt its attack to do a ranged attack on Tatiana. 1, 2, 3 range. It needs 4 range because actually it's going to move 1 more and then interrupt its attack there. It needs 1, 2, 3 range because of Tatiana's hero ability. It gets a yellow die and a blue die, and then she gets a gray die. Remember, we also need a surge or else it's a miss. All right, so this is going to end up being okay. So we have 3 damage going through, a surge for the Cloud of Mist from a Sheeran. We have enough range, and then we are going to use the other surge for 2 damage. So that's 5 damage minus 1. Tatiana is going to take 4 damage and get knocked out. All right, so the first thing is Tatiana gets removed from the map. We put a hero token for her placement on the board. Then the Overlord gets a threat token, and they can only get 1 per hero per encounter, so we're going to use that as a reminder. Then we have to fill up her full health to 12, and then her fatigue goes to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, but she does get rid of poison. All right, and then now the Goblin Archer gets 1 more movement. The Archer's going to move back 1 right over there. And now this one's going to go next. It's going to go 1, 2 right there. I guess 3. And then it's going to attack a Shalara. It needs to get to 1, 2, 3 range. It gets a yellow die and a blue die. And then she gets a gray die and a brown die. I'm going to have to rewind a bunch here. Let's go ahead and put these back to where they were. I think that, and this one was going up here. And then actually way back here. And then when it activated, Tatiana could have spent 2 fatigue to do first strike. And then she's going to do a range attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 range. 5 range because of her hero ability. So let's see if that would have mattered. So we would have exhausted first strike. That was the reason why she was standing there, because this doesn't make noise. And then she's going to get her Elm Great Bow and accurate. So she does need 5 range. She has a yellow die and a blue die against the Goblin's gray die. Let's see if she even gets the range. She does not, but she's going to use accurate. She's deciding which dice she wants to reroll. I keep doing this. It's a yellow die and a blue die, not 2 yellow dice. I'm always wondering. All right, here we go. This is what we actually get. So the range is good right there. I don't know if it's going to be enough damage, so we are going to use a surge, actually accurate, to reroll this because we just need more damage coming out. Let's see if that mattered. I don't think it did. So surge for 2 more damage. So 4 minus 1, the goblin takes 3, and then everything else would have happened. She would have been knocked out. So the only difference is the goblin takes 3 damage. Let's go ahead and place that right here. 1, 2, 3, and then he would have moved back to go right over here. All right, sorry for the backtrack. It would have been silly not to give her the first strike chance. All right, now we're actually going on to this goblin's turn. 1, 2, 3. Stop its movement to attack Shalara. It needs 1, 2, 3 range. It gets a yellow die and a blue die against a gray and a brown. It does need a surge because of Cloud and Mist as well. So let's see. We do get the range. For range, we do have the surge, so it's not a miss from the Cloud. So it is going to be 2 damage against 1. So Shalara takes 1 damage. Let's go ahead and place that right there and continue the Goblin Archer's movement. Moved 1, 2, 3. It's going to go back 4, 5 as well. And this one's going to go next. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. Same deal. Attack on Shalara. All right, it needs 3 range, so let's check that first. The range is good. It needs a surge to get past the Cloud of Mist, so it's good on that end. Shalara got 3 defense, and then the other surge can be used for extra 2 damage. So 4 damage on 3, Shalara takes 1 damage again. All right, so we're going to exchange those right there for a 5, and then the Goblin Archer gets to continue its movement. It's going to go 3, 4, 5 right over there. Stay away from Bright Blaze. And then this one's going to go. It's going to start its movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. Same deal. Attacking Shalara. Needs a 3 range. All right, so let's see if we get the range. We're good on the range, and then we have to spend a Surge for Cloud of Mist. And then there is 3 defense from Shalara. So she takes no damage, and the Goblin Archer gets to continue its movement. It's actually just going to stay put here because it doesn't want Shalara to do a blast attack, so it's the end of the Goblin Archer's turn. All right, the zombies are going to go next. Let's actually start with this one here. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. It has shambles, so it can't move again. This one right here is going to go 1, 2, 3, and then the Overlord's going to use a dash card right here to get another movement. 1, 2, 3. And then attack Shalara with a yellow die and a blue die. She gets a gray and a brown. All the zombie has to do is do 1 damage. Let's go ahead and see what happens. All right, this is looking good for the zombie. It has 3 damage and 2 surges. Sorry, it's the regular one, so let's pull that down. So yeah, that is definitely 2 damage going through. Surge, 4, 5, and a disease. So 4 damage and disease. This knocks out Shalara. All right, we remove her figure from the map and then go ahead and place a hero token for her. Overlord's going to get a threat token and put the hero token as a reminder that they can't get another threat from that hero. We then fill up her health track for 11 right there because she gets an extra health because of the leather armor right over here. And then the stamina is already full. Next up is this Master Zombie. 1, 2, 3 movements. All right, that's the end of the zombie's turn. All right, at the end of the Overlord turn, we're going to place another zombie right there on the exit. All right, at the beginning of the hero's turn, Grisban's going to use a fatigue to get a free movement and go right there. Let's go ahead and place the fatigue. He's then going to use his fortune token to then remove a fatigue and then spend 2 fatigue right here on charge. Let's go ahead and do that. He's going to move 1, 2, 3 right here and attack Belthier with his iron battle axe. He gets a blue die and a red die against Belthier's 2 gray dice and a brown die. All right, let's roll everyone's dice right here. Let's see what Grisban gets. He gets 4 damage, which is actually pretty good. And then Belthier only gets 1 defense right here. Grisban's going to use Weapon Mastery to get a surge to add 2 more damage. So 6 damage, pierce 1, so 6 damage goes through on Belthier. Let's go ahead and place the 5, 6, so he's at 13 out of 18, so he has 5 life left. Belthier does get to roll his Shield of Zorak's favor. Let's go ahead and roll that test. He is rolling for might. He has to get 4 or less on the test. He fails, so he does not reflect back any damage. Now Grisban has to roll for a noise test. Grisban's going to roll for willpower. He has to get a 3 or less. He does not pass, and then he makes noise. So we're going to go ahead and add a hero counter to the noise track. That's the end of Grisban's turn. Sharon's going to go next. She's going to use her fortune token to remove a fatigue, but then use the fatigue to get 1 free movement. So she's going to move right over here, and then her second action is, well, actually her first action is going to be to revive Shalara right there. All right, we're going to roll 2 red dice to see how much gets healed up. So only 2 health, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, we're going to go ahead and heal 2 health right there. Change that down to a 3. And then she gets to go back onto the field. All right, so we take her token away, and then Shalara is good right there. But then Sharon has to make a noise test for the revive. She's going to test willpower, so she has to get a 3 or less. She ends up failing, so we're going to go ahead over here and add a noise counter to the noise track. And then Sharon gets to move on to her second action. Her second action is to rest, but unfortunately, she still has to test for noise. For willpower, 3 or less. She ends up not making noise, so then she gets to remove all the fatigue at the end of her turn, which is right now. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, Shalara is going to go next. She's going to attack Belthier, but before she takes her turn, the familiar is going to move 1, 2. The special terrain counts as water, so 3, 4. So she'll get a pierce. She is going to use her fortune token to remove a fatigue. All right, let's go ahead and do that. So the fortune token is used right there, and then the fatigue goes off. Let's go ahead and roll her yellow die and a blue die against 2 gray and a brown. All right, she's really good on range, so she doesn't have to worry about that. That has to go into the bin. All right, so let's see everything we got. Let's pull it out. We have 4 damage and a surge against 3 defense. She's trying to do 5 damage right here. Let's go ahead and add another surge with the mana weave. So with that one surge, 2 more damage. So we're at 6 minus the 2 because of Pierce. So that is 4 damage. She's trying to get to 5. I believe, yeah. She has to spend Runic Knowledge, so Suffer Fatigue to get 2 more damage. So let's go ahead and place that back right there. The Overlord is going to use Armor of Darkness to exhaust us right here to get 2 more defense. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, minus the 4 pierced over that. So only 4 damage goes through, and then a hero gets a fortune token. All right, let's go ahead and place this one with a 5, and Belthier still has 1 more health left. Let's assign the fortune token. We're going to get the fortune token. Actually, we're going to go give it to Shalara back again right there. And then Belthier gets the roll for Shield of Zorak's favor. So let's go ahead and do his might test. All right, he's trying to get 4 or less. He ends up failing, so he does not reflect back 3 damage onto Shalara. All right. Shalara now also has to roll for noise for the first attack. She has to roll 4 or less for knowledge. Let's see what she gets. She ends up not making noise. Shalara is going to make a second attack, but before she does, she's going to use this fortune token to get rid of a fatigue right there. She's going to attack Belthier. She doesn't really need range because she just needs 1 not to roll the miss. She gets a yellow die and a blue die. He gets 2 gray die and a brown die. All right, let's see what they roll right here. So it goes down the castle. All right, this is looking pretty good. Looks like they finally get to take out Belthier right here. So we have 3 damage, 1 pierce, and a surge right there. So that will end up doing 2 damage, which takes out Belthier. And then she's going to use her Iron Will with the extra unspent surge to recover 2 fatigue. All right, let's take out Belthier right there. So he is gone. He's knocked out. And then she's going to remove 2 fatigue right here, but she does have to make a noise test. All right, she's going to roll knowledge. She has to get 4 or less. She ends up not making noise. Last up is Tatiana. She's going to do a stand-up action. She gets to roll 2 red dice. All right, let's see what she gets right here. She gets to recover 6 health. So go ahead and recover that, and then she gets to go back to the board. She has to choose an adjacent empty space because Grisban's on her spot. She's going to choose right here. She then has to test for noise. She's going to test willpower. She has to get 2 or less. She ends up making noise and has to add a hero token to the timer. That's the end of Tatiana's turn. All right, at the beginning of the Overlord turn, they go ahead and add another timer to the ticking time bomb, and then they get to raise 1 alarm by discarding 5 of these. 4, 5, right there. They also get to draw another card, which ends up being Rise Again. This is going to be really useful. Let's go ahead and place the next open group. All right, we're going to place the first Shadow Dragon right here. And then because there's not enough space, we get to choose the next closest space for this next one. The Master one's going to go right over there. All right, first up is the Shadow Dragon. The Master one's going to move. It's going to use this spot, 1, 2, 3 right here and expand. I have to move the door for now, right there. It's going to do its Fire Breath for its second action and hit all 4 heroes. Let's go ahead and add all of that up. But before that happens, Sharon's going to use Stone Skin for 1 fatigue right here to protect herself with an extra gray die. But we're going to roll the Shadow Dragon first. It gets 2 red dice and a blue die. All right, let's see what we roll right here. We end up getting no surges, so the Elven Heavy Cloak doesn't do anything from Tatiana. So yeah, no surges, so we're doing 3, 4, 5, 7 damage. So let's roll the hero's defense 1 at a time. First up is Tatiana. She gets a gray die. She ends up rolling nothing. She is going to use her fortune token to roll again. She doesn't want to get KO'd here, so we're going to go ahead and roll that. So let's move this up so we show that the 7's happening. All right, -1, so she takes 6 damage, which is still enough to knock her out. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to remove her figure from the field, and then go ahead and add her heroic token. The Overlord already got a threat token from her, so they get to draw a card instead. They end up getting Tripwire right there, and we add up to her full health right there, and she already has the 4 fatigue. So let's go on to the next defense. All right, Grisban is next. He gets 2 gray dice, so let's see what he gets. He gets 3, so 7 minus 3, he gets hit for 4 damage. Let's exchange that 1 for 5 right there. All right, as Sharon's next, she has a shield. She gets an extra gray defensive die because of Stone Skin, so 2 gray and 1 brown. That has to go into the castle. All right, she ends up getting 2 shield. She could re-roll 1. She's just going to add another for 1 more defense. So 7 minus the 3, she takes 4 damage. Let's go ahead and place 4 damage onto her. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last up is Shalara. She gets a gray and a brown right there. She has 2 defense. 7 minus 2, she takes 5 damage. She also gets knocked out. Let's go ahead and remove her hero and place a hero token right there. Fill her up to max fatigue or full stamina, and then fill her health up all the way up to 11 right there. So go ahead and grab that. That's the end of the Shadow Dragon's turn. The Overlord, I almost forgot, also gets to grab another card, which is Poison Dart right there. All right, and then it's going to move this Shadow Dragon 1, 2, 3, and then expand just right over here. It's the end of the Shadow Dragon's turn. Next up are the Zombies activation, but because this one's starting next to a Sharon, it gets a stun token. So we're going to go ahead and do this one first. 1, 2, 3 right there. Let's go with this one. 1, 2, 3 into the corner. And then this one's going to go 1, 2, 3. And then this one has to use its first action to get unstunned. And then its next action is to attack a Sharon. It gets a yellow die and a blue die. She gets a gray die and a brown die. All right, let's go ahead and roll that. I think the zombie's trying to do just 2 damage. Has to go in there. This is not going to be good for a Sharon. All right, so the zombie got 2 surges. It doesn't need to waste critical blow, but it's going to use 1 surge for plus 2 damage. The other surge for a disease, even though it's not going to matter. 5 against 1. A Sharon takes 4 damage and gets knocked out. All right, so we're going to remove her figure from the map. Go ahead and put down her token right there. And then the Overlord never knocked out a Sharon, so they get a threat token, but use this as a reminder that they just got one. All right, last up are the Goblin Archers. This one's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And it's going to make a shot on Grisbane. It gets a yellow die and a blue die against his 2 gray dice. All right, let's see what he rolls. He doesn't have to worry about range. He gets a lot here. So there's going to be 4 damage and a surge, and against 4 defense. So we're going to use the 2 damage surge. So 6 against 4, 2 damage goes through to Grisbane. Let's go ahead and place the 2 damage in Grisbane and move on to the next Goblin Archer. All right, this one's going to go next. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to move all the way over there. And then it's going to make attack on Grisbane. Let's pull over its health right here. It gets a yellow die and a blue die against his 2 gray dice. All right, let's see what he rolls. He ends up getting 2 damage and a surge. So let's go ahead and use that surge on probably just plus 2 right here. So 4 against 2, Grisbane takes 2 damage. Let's go ahead and exchange the 3 for a 5. So Grisbane, I believe, has 7 life left. Next up is this Goblin Archer. 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, right there. It's going to attack Grisbane with the yellow die and a blue die. All right, Grisbane gets 2 gray dice. Let's see what ends up rolling. We get 3 damage and a surge. And we have 4 defense right there. We are going to use the surge for plus 2 damage right there. So that's 5 on a 4, 1 damage goes through. All right, go ahead and place that 1 damage right there. All right, the Overlord's going to use Dark Resilience on this particular goblin right here. It's going to roll 2 red dice and heal up. All right, let's see how much gets healed. It has to go in the castle. Ends up healing the Goblin Archer for 3 health. All right, still has 1 damage on it. Actually, no, that was all 3. All right, that's the end of the Overlord's turn. At the end of the Overlord's turn, we get to place a zombie right here on the exit. All right, Grisbane's going to go first. He's going to attack this Goblin Archer right here with a red die and a blue die with his Iron Battle Axe. The Goblin gets a gray defensive die. He gets Pierce 1 and he's trying to do 4 damage. Let's go ahead and see what happens. He ends up missing and he has no way to re-roll that, so it's rough. And now he has to roll for noise. He has to test for willpower. He has to get a 3 or less right there. He ends up not making noise. His next action is going to be using to revive Shalara, so he gets to roll 2 red dice for her. All right, let's see how much she heals up. She gets to heal 4 health, so let's go ahead and do that. This goes down to a 1, and we bring her back to the map. She's going to choose this spot right here, but then Grisbane does have to roll for noise, so let's go ahead and roll for that. He's going to roll for willpower. He has to get a 3 or less. He ends up failing, but then he's going to use his lucky charm to roll again. So going for a 3 or less. He fails again, so we add a noise counter to the noise track right here. That's the end of Grisbane's turn. Shalara is going to go next. She's going to do an attack with her Sunburst on this Goblin Archer. She gets to roll a yellow die and a blue die. He gets to roll a gray defensive die. Before that was going to happen, she was going to have her Familiar go and move 1, 2 right here under Grisbane, so then she at least gets a Pierce 1 as well. All right, let's go back to the attack. She's going to try to do 4 damage, so let's see what happens right here. She gets 3 damage and a surge, so she's going to use her Mana Weave. There is Pierce 1. Mana Weave to get another surge. So first surge is 2 damage. So that's 5 against the 1. So that knocks out the Goblin Archer. She's going to use her second unspent surge to recover 2 stamina with Iron Will. All right, let's remove the Goblin Archer right there. And then remove the 2 stamina right there, or the fatigue. And then she has to roll for noise. She's going to test knowledge. She needs to get a 4 or less. She ends up not making noise. All right, Shalara's going to use 1 fatigue to move right over here. Let's go ahead and place that right there. And then she's then going to use Exploding Rune for 1 fatigue to do a blast attack. Let's go ahead and place that right there. She's going to target this Goblin Archer. It is going to hit Grisban, unfortunately. This will get Pierce 1, so let's go ahead and roll her dice. All right, let's go ahead and place that right there, and then let's roll this Goblin's defense. It's 3 damage and Pierce 1, so that Goblin ends up taking 3 damage minus 2, takes 1 damage. Let's go ahead and place 1 damage right here, and then we're going to roll for the zombie next. All right, the zombie gets a brown die and ends up getting hit for 3 damage. All right, 3 damage right there in that zombie, and then we're going to attack Grisban with this 2 gray defensive dice. All right, we end up getting 2 defense, minus 1 for Pierce, so Grisban takes 2 damage. So go ahead and place that right there, and now Shalara has to roll for noise. She is testing knowledge. She needs 4 or less. She ends up not making noise. That's the end of Shalara's turn. Next up is a Sharon under here. She's going to stand up. She gets to roll 2 red dice. All right, let's see how much she heals up. She gets to heal up 5 health right here. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's remove the 5 and return her back to the map. She's going to choose this space right here. Let's go ahead and remove that token. And then she does not get another action when she stands up. So that's the end of Sharon's turn. She does have to test for noise, though, for the stand-up action. She's going to roll willpower. She has to get a 3 or less. She ends up not making noise. Last up is Tatiana. She's going to do a stand-up action with 2 red dice. Let's see how much she heals. She ends up healing 5 health. Let's go ahead and remove that health and then return her back to the map. All right, we move that right there. And then she has to roll for noise. She's going to roll for willpower. She has to get a 2 or less. She ends up making noise, so we're going to add this over here and add a noise counter right there. That's the end of the hero's turn. At the beginning of the Overlord's turn, we're going to add a hero counter for the ticking time bomb, and then this also is 5 tokens to raise the alarm for the 4th time. We will do that in just a moment, but we also get to draw an Overlord card. We get Word of Despair. All right, we get to place Splig, the lieutenant, right here. The Shadow Dragon is going to go first. It's going to use its flame attack 1, 2, 3, 4 on those 3 heroes. It gets to roll 2 red dice and a blue die. Let's go ahead and roll those. All right, we'll roll the defense after, but let's see what the Overlord gets. All right, they get 6 damage. Tatiana had a heavy cloak, which could have gotten rid of a surge, but there's no surge rolled, so we're going to go ahead and move that out of the way. So the first person we're going to roll for is Shalara. She gets a brown die and a gray die. All right, let's see what she gets. She ends up getting 2 defense and gets hit for 4, which ends up knocking her out. We remove her from the map, place her token right there. The Overlord gets to draw a card, which is Dark Charm, and we fill up her health and fatigue to maximum. Next up is Grisban. He gets 2 gray dice right there, so he ends up rolling 2 defense. He ends up taking 4 damage, which is enough to knock him out. All right, the first thing we do is remove his figure from the board and go ahead and place a hero token right there. Then the Overlord gets the last threat token, and then the hero token right there as a reminder that it can't get any more threat tokens from Grisban. All right, and then he goes up to his 18 health, and then remove his figure right over there. All right, and then we're on to Tatiana's defensive roll. All right, Tatiana gets a gray die. She ends up rolling no defense right there, so she's going to take 6 health, which is enough to knock her out. We're going to go ahead and replace her with her hero token right there. And then go ahead and fill her up to maximum health and stamina. And that's the end of the Shadow Dragon's turn. Next up are the zombies. This one starts next to a Sharon, so it starts stunned right there. And then the Master Zombie is going to go first, interrupt its movement, and attack a Sharon. This one ends up getting a yellow die, a blue die, and a red die. A Sharon gets a gray die, brown die, and has a shield. She has 5 health left, so let's see what they end up rolling. All right, we get 2 damage right there. 4 damage and a surge. She gets 3 defense right there. She's going to use the shield to get another defensive point. So she has 4. And then the surge is going to be used on critical blow. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on a 4. 3 damage goes through to a Sharon. All right, we're going to place the 3 damage right there. She has 2 life left. It's going to go next. It has to use its first action to get rid of the stun. And then its next attack is a yellow die and a blue die on her gray and brown. All right, just needs to do 2 damage right here. We end up getting a damage. Let's pull this down because it's a regular one. Damage and a surge against 2 defense. The surge is going to be used for an extra 2 damage. So 3 minus 2, 1 damage goes through to a Sheeran. Let's go ahead and replace the 4 with the 5 right there. And let's move on to the other zombies. All right, this one's going to go 1, 2, 3 right over there. This one's going to go 1, 2, 3 into the corner. This one's going to go 1, 2, 3 as well. All right, the Goblin Archers activate next. Each of these are regular minions next to a Sheeran, so they start stunned. This one's going to use its first action to get rid of the stun, and second action to attack a Sheeran with a yellow die and a blue die against her gray die and brown die. All right, it just needs to do 1 damage right here. I think this might be enough to do it. So we have 1 damage and 2 surges. We're going to use one of the surges for plus 2 damage. So it's going to be 3 minus 2. 1 damage is enough to take out a Sheeran. We're going to go ahead and remove her from the map right there and put her hero token. At this point in the scenario, the Overlord has to raise the alarm 6 times. They've done it 4, and they have a token towards the next raise an alarm. All the heroes can kind of do is just stand up, which makes noise, and then most likely all of these monsters are just too overwhelming. So it's rare that I do this, but I'm going to call this one short, and the Overlords end up winning. So we're going to go to the rewards section. All right, win or lose, everyone gets an experience, so that's good. The heroes, they did not win. The Overlord won, so they get an additional experience, and the next quest is Shadowfall Mountain. If any player has a Shadow Rune relic, they keep it, so that's the Overlord. All right, let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so Tatiana has 2 experience, Shalara has 3, Asherin has 2, Grisbin has 1. The heroes got the 150 gold. Overlord has 2 experience and 8 threat tokens. So let's go ahead and do the skills first. All right, let's go ahead and do actually the shopping phase first. So we draw 5 cards right here. We have Lightning Strike, a magic rune. It's a 2-handed ranged weapon, 1 blue, 2 yellow. It has a surge for blast and also 2 surges for 4 damage. All right. Next up is going to be a grinding axe. This is 2-handed. It has a blue die and 2 red dice. Double surge for 5 damage or 1 surge for 1 damage. It costs 175 gold. Next up, we have this right here. Heavy steel shield costs 100 gold, 1-handed. Exhaust this card after rolling defense dice to re-roll 1 defense die and add 1 to the roll. All right. And then we have the steel great sword right here, which is 2-handed. It costs 200. It's a melee attack of blue, red, and yellow, and once per attack you may reroll 1 power die, which is either the red or yellow die. Surge for pierce 2, and also a surge for 1 damage. That's pretty good. And then the last thing we can purchase is plate mail for 250 gold. You cannot equip runes. It's a black defensive die, but your speed is reduced to 3 and cannot be increased above 3. So I'm going to see what the heroes can sell and what they end up purchasing. Give me a second. They only have enough to get Grisbin the grinding axe right here, so it's going to be a lot of dice. He's going to be a really good force to reckon with in melee. The heroes also still have 25 gold left to spend, but there's nothing else worth purchasing. We are going to spend 3 experience for Shalara for quick casting. After you perform an attack with a rune weapon, we can exhaust this card and spend 2 fatigue to immediately perform an additional attack. All right, and last up, the Overlord's going to spend 3 threat tokens to purchase the Summon Ulrich plot card, and that is the end of the Prison of Khinn.